Welcome to this in-depth explainer on the integrity crisis created by over 10,000 unenforced deportation warrants that have remained active for more than a year. Today we will unpack why this backlog exists, what it costs in terms of security and public trust, and how to fix it with targeted solutions. To begin, let's set the stage with what's happening and why it matters. Here is our agenda. First, we will outline the current situation and scale of the backlog. Next, we will examine the hidden costs of inaction. Then, we will explore the primary reasons removals stall. After that, we will propose actionable solutions. We will also include a short quiz to test understanding. And finally, we will conclude with key takeaways. We are seeing more than 10,000 final removal orders sitting unenforced for over a year. This is not merely an administrative hiccup. Rather, it represents a deeper integrity problem that affects public confidence, the rule of law, and the credibility of border enforcement. In other words, the system is issuing legal outcomes that it cannot consistently execute. This flow shows how a removal warrant can stall. First, after a warrant is issued, legal challenges such as judicial reviews and appeals often apply stays or delays. Next, authorities must locate the individual. If the person stops reporting, they become effectively missing, which complicates enforcement efforts. Then, even when located, officials need valid travel documents from the country of origin. If those documents are not forthcoming, removals cannot proceed. Consequently, cases accumulate and remain in backlog for over 12 months, while only those cases that clear legal, location, and documentation obstacles proceed to successful removal. The backlog has serious consequences. First, the perception that enforcement is unlikely can encourage future noncompliance. Second, the longer someone remains despite a final removal order, the more likely they are to stop reporting and disappear. Third, the unresolved presence of inadmissible individuals can raise public safety and national security risks. Finally, public trust in institutions and in the rule of law erodes when legal outcomes are not enforced. This diagram presents the pipeline from final order to execution and highlights three bottlenecks: legal delays, inability to locate individuals, and missing travel documents. Beginning with the issuance of a final removal order, the process encounters decisions related to legal stays, the person's location status, and the availability of travel documents. If any branch remains unresolved, the case loops into a backlog, especially after 12 months. Resource constraints across investigation, litigation, and liaison teams intensify these delays and make backlogs persist. This sequence traces a typical non-removal journey. First, the agency serves a final removal order. Next, the individual files a judicial review or an appeal, and a stay may be granted. Meanwhile, the agency imposes reporting requirements, but some individuals stop reporting and become difficult to locate. At the same time, the agency requests travel documents from the country of origin. However, verification and issuance can be delayed or denied. As a result, the case remains active beyond 12 months, feeding the backlog. On the left is the traditional first-come, first-served model. In that model, cases progress uniformly regardless of public safety implications, and data sharing across agencies can be limited. On the right is a risk-based triage model. This approach prioritizes individuals with criminal histories or security flags, expedites those cases, and relies on integrated intelligence hubs that link police and immigration data. The shift aims to reduce risk sooner by focusing finite resources where they matter most. This illustrative pie chart shows an example distribution: 40% legal delays, 35% inability to locate individuals, 20% missing travel documents, and 5% other causes. These figures are hypothetical and used for explanation. Regardless of exact percentages, the key point is that multiple bottlenecks compound to create a sustained backlog. Here are actionable steps. First, shift from a first-come model to risk-based prioritization. Second, create a dedicated fugitive apprehension task force to manage long-term cases. Third, invest in analytics to surface leads and detect patterns for targeted operations. Fourth, negotiate targeted return agreements with difficult countries of origin. Fifth, introduce both incentives for compliance and penalties for obstructive behavior. Finally, publish performance dashboards to increase transparency and rebuild public trust. This journey diagram organizes the process by stakeholder. The agency issues the warrant, attempts to locate the individual, and requests documents. The individual moves from receiving the order to appealing, and sometimes failing to report. The courts review and decide appeals, contributing to timeframes. The foreign government verifies citizenship and issues travel documents, which can be slow or uncertain. The ratings reflect operational difficulty and delays encountered at each phase. Quiz time. The question is, which trio best explains the persistent backlog of unenforced removal warrants? The options are 1. High volume, legal delays, documentation hurdles. 2. Understaffing only. 3. Public opinion shifts. And 4. Flight capacity alone. You may pause the video now to think about the answer. We will discuss the answer in the next section of the video. The correct answer is high volume, legal delays, and documentation hurdles. These factors, combined with the challenge of locating individuals, create a perfect storm that sustains the backlog despite continuous enforcement efforts. These policy levers can break the stalemate. First, secure targeted agreements with countries of origin to accelerate the issuance of travel documents. Second, create compliance incentives that reward cooperation, such as offering reporting credits or expedited closure for those who assist the process. Third, implement consequences for obstruction, including restrictions on future entry or benefits. Fourth, formalize secure information sharing arrangements to connect police and immigration data without compromising privacy and due process. This table summarizes tools, purposes, impacts, and trade-offs. Risk-based triage reduces public safety risk quickly, but may increase weights for lower-risk cases. A fugitive task force can raise execution rates but needs sustained funding. Bilateral return agreements reduce documentation delays but involve diplomatic complexity. Compliance incentives improve reporting but risk perceptions of leniency. Penalties for obstruction deter non-cooperation but must respect due process and proportionality. Public dashboards build trust yet require careful data quality and privacy safeguards. Second quiz. The question is, which step most directly improves outcomes for cases where the individual has stopped reporting? The options are more initial claim processing, a dedicated fugitive apprehension task force, publishing annual reports only, and reducing court oversight. You may pause the video now to consider your answer. We will discuss the answer in the next section. The correct answer is a dedicated fugitive apprehension task force. A specialized unit focuses resources on locating non-reporting individuals and executing long-standing removal orders, which directly addresses this specific bottleneck. In summary, the backlog undermines institutional integrity and public safety. The primary blockers are legal delays, the inability to locate individuals, and missing travel documents. Risk-based triage and specialized task forces are pivotal operational responses. Policy levers, including diplomatic agreements, help unblock documentation. Finally, transparency through reporting and performance metrics is essential to rebuild public trust. This section provides a disclaimer. This video is for educational purposes only and does not constitute legal advice. Operational realities and policies vary by country and agency. Some charts or figures shown are illustrative to aid understanding and may not reflect official statistics. Always seek official guidance or legal counsel before relying on any procedural or legal interpretation. These are the core highlights. Enforcement integrity depends on actually executing final orders. Backlogs arise from multiple causes, requiring coordinated responses rather than a single fix. Prioritizing high-risk cases and creating a dedicated task force are essential. Policy levers and diplomacy can reduce documentation delays. Finally, transparent reporting sustains public trust over time. Thank you for watching. If this video helped clarify the issue, please like, share, and subscribe. I would love to hear your ideas in the comments. What would you prioritize first to reduce the backlog? Your perspective matters.